Harry Kane for £150 million. Haaland versus Kylian Mbappe. And is it going to be Diallo Day? This is the Terrace live. Hit the like button. Hit the share button. Let's go. Yes. Welcome back, people. Good morning, good afternoon, good day, wherever you are around the world. This is the Football Terrace, the premium YouTube phoning show, the originals, the original OGs in this space. There's no doubt about it. 2 live phoning shows a day for you, plus match reactions every single day. You don't get this quality anywhere else. You simply don't. A lot of people are saying not happening. We're going to delve into listen, I always say this about transfer news on the Terrace. We're here telling you it's happening. We're here giving you what the news has said. And it's for you to die. If you don't think it's happening, that's what you're here to. Don't get angry. No, I'm angry even talking about it. Just come on and have your say, have your opinions, denounce the journalist, relax a little bit, sit back, have a little sip of tea. Lovely jubbly. We're talking Harry Kane. £150 million price tag has been put on his name. So I'm just moving my chair forward. Been put on his name by Daniel Levy. Is Harry Kane the star player that Tottenham are going to look to sell? I also want to discuss today Kylian Mbappe versus Haaland. It's everywhere. It's trending. Which of the 2 strikers, and we're putting this out for you now. You can phone into the show. We're going to share the link very soon. Haaland or Kylian Mbappe? Which of the 2 is on course to be the next GOAT? Which of the 2 is the better striker now? Which of the 2 is going to have the brightest and best future? I want your views. I want your opinions. It's the new Messi versus Ronaldo. It's the new Rooney no, we won't go to anyone else. We'll just say that Messi. If I say anybody else, everyone's going to get upset, aren't they? Do you know what I mean? I'm about to say it's a new Harry Kane Lewandowski. No, I won't say that because Harry Kane, Mbappe versus Haaland. I want your thoughts. I want your feelings on that. KJ is going to be joining me very, very soon on the show. Also, from a United perspective, is it Diallo Day? Will we finally get to see Diallo play? I've seen the basic bitches are out today. I've seen Ollie getting so much stick. He doesn't support youth. It's a myth. Diallo's not going to play. It's a madness. Like, literally, what I've seen this morning on social media is crazy. It's cray-cray. You are cray-cray. Honestly. Wouldn't trust half these people to make me toast, let alone their football opinion on Twitter. But that's why I love you people. That's why I love the Football Terrace community. Because you are I genuinely mean this from the bottom of one's heart. The premier football community on the planet. You in the comments on the Discord. Make sure you sign up to the Discord. It's where the link's going in a minute for you to phone in and have your say on the show. In fact, it's just been shared now in the general chat page. So go and get yourselves involved in that one. I've spammed it. Absolutely spammed it. You make sure you're hitting that like button as well, please. Just want you to. It'd be nice. Terry, Ollie hasn't used youth since he got in. What are you on about? I must just be dreaming that Mason Greenwood's played games this year. Maybe I'm dreaming. It's only just a dream to me. What's Mason Greenwood, bruv? What's Rashi? What's Scotty? We've also bought young players. AWB being another. Do people look at... He only gives... Do you think he's meant to give 5 youth players opportunities every year? New ones. Jeez! Some people are mad. Is that what you think? Ah. Same football manager, bro. This ain't football manager. It don't work like that. But is it going to be Diallo Day? Brandon Williams is another example. Tuanzebe. Yeah, maybe. Maybe. But since he joined, no, he hasn't given anybody an opportunity. Terry, what's this say here? What's his comment say? Terry, what would a Nagelsmann do with a Sancho and Rashford do? He'd make them play better football. Yeah, I mean, he'd definitely do that, in my opinion. There we go. Let's delve into this Harry Kane story that's been doing the rounds. Bear with me a second because I've shut down the link that I had open to this story. We're going to go through this and we're going to start taking your calls. I'm going to get KJ on first, though, to join me as co-host on the Terrace this morning. When I see him unmute his mic, then I'm going to bring him on because that tells me he's got his mic set up. That means he's got his mic set up. You never quite know. The other day, KJ was ready to come in, and then he was setting his mic up for 5 minutes. It sounded like a removal man in the background there. KJ, welcome back, bro. How you doing?
I'll remove you in a minute, mate. What are you talking about?
All right, old man.
Nah, I'm good, man. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, man, I'm all right. Do you know what? It's Europa League day and whatnot. It's not. It is what it is, isn't it, bruv? Like it is what it is. It is what it is. Talking Kane, talking Mbappe, talking Haaland, and obviously speaking about Diallo or anything else people want to phone in about. The Harry Kane news is an interesting one for me because ever since it was revealed that Tottenham are going to have to sell a major player, there's only two that come to mind. It's Son or it's Harry Kane. Nobody else, in my opinion, falls into that category of a huge player that could attract a ginormous amount of money. Daniel Levy has kind of informed the media that it would cost £150 million plus to consider Harry Kane leaving. He's still got 3 years remaining on his deal. Man United are heavily linked with him, along with Manchester City as well. Can you see Harry Kane going this summer yourself?
Hell no. 150 million. Are you mad? Listen, he's a fantastic footballer. Absolutely lethal number 9. But in this market, in this environment, in this world that we live in, no club is paying 150 million this year. Like, no. Daniel Levy knows what he's doing. Daniel Levy is making sure that no one touches his main asset. That's all it is, fam. No, that's all it is. Man is pricing man out of a move, and everyone just moves forward because everyone will see that price, look at their bank accounts, look at their pockets, and be like, no, you know what I mean? So that's all it is.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And do you know what's interesting about it? I love Harry Kane as a footballer. But if I look at it from a United point of view, I actually think right now creators are more important than finishers. We have goal scorers at the club. We lack creativity. People keep talking about our system. And I agree that a better system manager could make us play a better system. But equally, we're the only team I can think of that in our 4 major attacking slots in the team, we have goal scorers. We have Cavani or Martial. They're goal scorers over being creators. We have Rashford, who's a scorer. We have Greenwood, who wants to score goals. And we have Bruno, who wants to score goals. So for me, I looked at there was this I'm going to share on the screen right now today. Again, this for me is from German football expert Konstantin Eckner. And this for me is the more realistic option. And I know we don't like to praise Woodward and co, but it looks like their business and their activities in the summer could end up paying dividends because Dortmund are considering accepting an asking price now for around £87 million for Sancho. And in my opinion, £87 million spent on Sancho is superior business to even 100 million on Harry Kane. This is superior because we need to create more opportunities per game first. Because if Harry Kane comes in, he'll score a few more. He'll definitely score more goals than Martial or Cavani through the middle. But we still don't create enough opportunities for him to be as potent as we like. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And that assist last night, shows what he can do. Like, tell me a player in United that could make that assist. Maybe Bruno, if he wants to be accurate, you know what I mean? Because you know what Bruno's passing is like. It's wild sometimes. It's erratic. Amazing when it comes off, but freaking annoying when it doesn't. But name me another player that could do that. Paul Pogba? He's out injured and could be leaving. So it makes sense for United to try and get it. I'm still on the train of, yo, it's done, it's over. And any kind of attempt to get him is just posturing. But I'd rather spend 87 on Jadon Sancho than 150 on Harry Kane, like 100%. Unless you're Indiana. Indiana is saying spend 150 million on on Harry Kane because he wants that striker in it.
I was looking at this, right? So shots in the box per game. Harry Kane at the moment averages around 3 per match, where Cavani is averaging around 1.4. That for me is the creativity that lacks in the team. And I'm not suddenly saying that Ole, and I am saying this, Ole's system improves if you give him creative players. If you literally took Rashford out and Greenwood out and put Grealish and Sancho either side, you would see far more opportunities created in the middle. Now, you may not want to use them two as your inside forwards every single game. What it would give Man United is that flexibility to change. There'll be some games where you think, actually, we'll start with Rashford. You know, you might start with Rashford on the left and Sancho on the right, Grealish maybe more centrally, or Grealish from the bench. But look at the options it gives us. Man United at the moment have an abundance of goal scorers and a lack of creativity. And I think that it's not even about, you know, we know how good Haaland is. We know how good Harry Kane are as finishers, but we lack creativity as a team. And I think that needs to be the first area addressed. The devil's advocate here says, heard something earlier today that Cavani averages 1.3 shots per game compared to Kane at 3.7 under Jose's system. We need creativity. And it's right. You're right, the devil's advocate. We need creativity and we need balance. I honestly feel like if you threw Jadon Sancho now onto that right-hand side, you would see so many things click into place because we're a more balanced team. One of the biggest things that lets down Ole's system is that everything goes down the left-hand side, because that's where our best source of creativity is. When you know we're going to go down the left and it becomes predictable, it's easy to set up against.
Very easy, and it's completely telling when teams say to Aaron Wan-Bissaka, okay, cool, we're not even going to pressure you on that right-hand side. We're not even going to send that men out to you on that right-hand side, because we know that the attacking strength down that side is poor. If you really watch our games, Rashford and Shaw will get 2 men on that side, come over and try and challenge them real quick. When it's Aaron Wan-Bissaka, he has the whole of the green, and that's why he looks worse as well. It's not like he has to take on a midfielder most of the time to get past them and put an across. More time, he's got so much space that he should be hitting a man with his crosses, and most of the time he doesn't. He's getting better, but right now he's not. And this is why we need Jadon Sancho. That we would get so much more out of Aaron Wan-Bissaka if we had Jadon Sancho on that side. Now, people will say that to get the best out of Jadon Sancho, you need an overlapping fullback. I don't think that's the case, personally. I don't believe that. I feel like it helps his game, yes, but he's good enough to be able to hold that right-hand flank by himself with support from a striker or from a 10, or even rotating with Rashford, getting some support that way. As long as Jadon Sancho has support and men around him, he can make things happen. It doesn't have to be the fullback that's the one overlapping and an option.
I agree with you. And I think that, interestingly as well, the way Man United's system would work with the fluid player system that Ole has instilled, you will see whether he starts left or right-hand side, Jadon Sancho, he likes to move in centrally. He's almost a number 10 that starts from an inside forward position. Equally, if you look at Cancelo right now at Man City, he, for me, is almost a playmaking midfielder who starts in a fullback role. But throughout the course of the game, he seems like he spends more time centrally or in creative positions than defensive ones. We've seen the same thing for Trent. The starting position for me in this day and age doesn't necessarily need to be, doesn't define you as a player, if that makes sense. What you will see happen is Bruno Fernandes in that 10 role drift out to the right-hand side to supply that support. The problem we have right now is that the mindset, though, of the person starting on the right, whether it's Rashford or Greenwood, it seems to be those two, their mindset is to get into that box and try and score goals. Jadon Sancho's is to try and get in and around the box, whether it's on the edge or just inside, to try and create opportunities for people to score. What we have then, by throwing in Sancho, and there's a comment here about Grealish, I can't wait to show you, with the Grealishes and Sancho's coming in, is we have creative players that start wide that can move inwards. we then have the quality of personnel in Bruno's and Rashford's and Martial's to be able to move into those wide roles when needed. But it's not prescribed. They're not going to be out there all the time. It becomes very difficult for teams to mark us because you've got great fluidity in our movement, but we have players that are comfortable in 2 or 3 positions. Of course, they'll all have an area of the pitch that they're most potent at, but we don't have that right now. We're too predictable. And I do think it's more of a personnel issue rather than a style issue. But there's a comment here from Steve that says Grealish turns up when he feels like it. Overhyped nonsense. 9 EPL tackles last season. What does this tell you?
What does that tell me? That tells me he plays further with the pitch and his job's not to tackle people. Like, that's what tell me. But listen, my brother, man like Steve, man, you clearly one of these Grealish haters, fam. Let it go, bro. Let it go. Jack Grealish ain't in the team to be in there winning all the tackles and that. And to be fair, he does track back. If you watch Aston Villa, he does track back. He does get in defensive positions and he does intercept the ball. Only because you don't tackle or you got low tackle stats doesn't mean you don't win the ball back in some way, shape, or form. You can intercept the ball as well.
I mean, do you know what I always love about those kind of things? It's how does it compare to other players that play in those attacking roles in teams? It's almost an arbitrary statistic unless you can compare it to others and apply context. Does that make sense? Like, and I see it all the time with people. They throw it out there.
He's just come back with saying Mane had 44 tackles, so explain that attitude. No, it's easy to explain. That system requires the forwards to press and win the ball back high up the pitch and put pressure on the defensive line. So, of course, he will have more tackles than Jack Grealish because that's his job. Jack Grealish in this Villa team is not to be pressing high up the pitch. It's to be finding the spaces, creating the chances through counter-attacks. So why would Jack Grealish be the one to tackle him when you want him high up the ball? So when you do win the high in the pitch, so when you do win the tackles, he's in space so you can pass it to him. The last thing you want Jack Grealish to do is to be tackling back, because who's going to pass it to then? In that Villa team, all he's got is Watkins to throw it up to and hold the ball. Other than that, where else is the creativity going to come from? And that's why his tackling stats are so low. And
just for some facts, defensive duels contested per game by Jack Grealish, 3.9. So let's just say 4. Wins 50% of them. Mane, it's 4.2. Wins 56% of them. Interceptions per game, Mane 1.9. Grealish 2.2. Slide tackles or tackles per game, Mane 0.3 wins half of them. Grealish 0.5 wins 46% of them. Loose balls won by Jack Grealish 2.8 per game. Loose balls won by Mane 4.2. So that's the only one winning loose balls, and that will come down to that higher end pressing game we're talking about, where Mane is superior defensively. So I don't really care for like the stat you just thrown out as arbitrary. When you look at the facts of the matter, you're looking at one element of ball recovery.
Terry, imagine saying Jack Grealish is overrated and overhyped, and I don't want him just because he don't tackle, bro. What on earth, fam? It's crazy. Listen, I'm just gonna say this now.
It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, Mandem like him are the reason why people use the word passion merchants and overhyped British players, because they spout nonsense like that, fam. That is why, fam. What does it matter if Jack Grealish don't tackle, fam? He's an absolute baller, and the attitude. Okay, he's come back saying it's all down to the attitude. Have you seen? You haven't watched Jack Grealish play. He's got one of the best attitudes in the Premier League. He's the captain of his football club. He works hard. He grafts. He brings the players into play. He drives forward. He chats to he shouts at his players. If you're saying that he's got an attitude problem and he turns up when he's like, that is a lie and a fallacy. You just don't like him because he must have stole your gal. Now, that's the only reason.
Steve is a City fan, and someone just put this statistic up. Now, this isn't me saying this is, I mean, in terms of your message, and where's it gone? I hate the way this stuff doesn't stand still. Grealish has made 27 tackles this season. Raheem Sterling has only made 19. Does that mean? So essentially, you're saying, Christine hasn't made a point with this, but I'll make the point for you. So based on Steve's logic, this means Sterling's lazy. It don't make sense. It doesn't mean Sterling's lazy. Like, Sterling isn't lazy at what he does at all. It's crazy talk. It's Steve trying to be the big one. Jack Grealish is an absolute baller. There is no doubt about it. There's a comment here from Ed. There's 150 million for Kane. have you met Daniel Levy start talking at 180 million? The thing with it, the only thing that I'll say about this Harry Kane leaving, I don't want Man United to drop any more than £100 million on a striker. I don't, based on other positions that need to be filled and the limitations in money that we've got. And I also feel that a right-sided creative attacker, a CDM, and a brand new centre-back are more important to us in terms of our rebuild right now and the system having balance than a striker. That's my view. But if Harry Kane wants to leave Tottenham, Daniel Levy isn't getting these kind of sums he's talking about. If Harry Kane is pushing for the move, it puts Spurs into a weak position from a negotiating point of view. They'll still get really good money because it's Harry Kane. He's got 3 years left on his contract. But there is this element of when a player doesn't want to be at your club, the best thing for the selling club, for the vendor, is to move that player on. And that's the one key factor here, which has to be put in. But we want your views. We want your opinions on that. We're going to take some calls now on that there as well. And then we're going to come back and we're going to talk a little bit about Kylian Mbappe versus Haaland. I want to point one thing out here. Haaland's expected goals per game is 0.7. Scores 0.94. Which is just absolutely ridiculous, right? His actual outputs in his, he scored 112 goals in his career in just over 10,000 minutes on the field of play, and he's 20 years of age. Respectively for Kylian Mbappe, he has scored 166 goals in 20,000 minutes on the field of play. Now, the amount of goals they score isn't the only element to judge how good they are. But in terms of goal scorer, for me, I think Haaland's in front of him in terms of clinical edge. 112 goals in 10,000 minutes versus 166 goals in 19,900 minutes. But we're going to delve into those two players later. Who do people prefer? Who do people think is going to be the best? We're going to take your calls on that. Not straight away, though. We want to speak Harry Kane. First up on the show, we're going to get man like Josh is going to be here with us now. Josh, welcome back to the Football Terrace. What do you want to say, bro?
Just how you doing, mate? It's been a while. How are you, KJ, Terry?
Good, man.
I'm about to say, why is it dark? You're in Australia. Of course it's dark. It's nighttime there. Yeah,
it's 10 to 11 and the kids have only just gone to bed. So, hang on, the missus put the light on. Thank you, dear. So we're talking about Harry Kane, at the moment.
Yeah, we'll start off with that. I mean, £150 million. Do you think how would you feel about Man United spending that amount of money on Kane?
No, look, as much as he's a class act, he's kind of like Pogba. He's expensive and injury prone. I'd love him. I mean, he's started to get that creative side playing in Jose's team. So, I mean, he's contributing more in his all-round game. So that is someone we do need up front. But I think for the team to work better, we need that creative force from midfield, essentially what Pogba's been doing now. But I mean, we all know Daniel Levy. He's super stringent with his fees. Like, Woodward will go in with a $100 million deal, and he's like, no, I'll do 150. All right, I'll give you 105 plus add-ons. No, I want 150. Or we'll do, I don't know, 40 mil up front, and then we'll do 7 years worth of repayments. We'll give him a 6-year contract with an option to extend. It's just not going to happen. Woodward will penny pinch. Levy will just sit there on his money and just be like, nah, not going to happen. As much as I love him, I can't see it going on.
Yeah, I hear you on that. And just on the other subject we're talking about today, Mbappe versus Haaland, which is your favourite of the two?
Personally, I like the eye test when it comes to Mbappe, and he's definitely taken his game up a couple of levels over the last couple of years. I mean, the fact that look what he did against Barca. I mean, Barca are in the dumps at the moment, but his performance was outstanding. Like, there's nothing else for it. I think he's reached that point where he needs that move to go to a more competitive league, higher standard of football to really test himself, because PSG is always going to win everything. So I think Haaland, he's just going to be probably another Ibrahimovic, I'd say, like a potent goal scorer. But for me, I mean, Mbappe's got he's got the skill and the flair plus the outputs as Haaland does. So it's hard to say. I think for me, Mbappe is my favourite. Sheer eye test and outputs. Haaland's more of a traditional 9. He's got pace to burn, but Mbappe is going to have a better career.
There we go. Listen, Josh, thank you very much, mate, for coming on and having your say. Really do appreciate that, buddy. Thank you. Next up on the show, we're going to have Mohammed Ahmed with us. Mohammed, welcome back to the Terrace. What do you want to say? Hello? Hello? It's me you're looking for. He didn't come on.
Bottled it.
Oh, come on, Matt. He rings in most days. But doesn't say too much. A lot of people here say, well, Mbappe's a right winger. He isn't a striker. You can't compare the two. Listen, Messi and Ronaldo haven't played in the same positions their whole careers, and everyone's compared them. I think it's a fair comparison, to be fair, to put these two up. We're going to go to Mustafa next. Mustafa, welcome back to the Football Terrace. What are you saying?
What's going on, Terrace? What's going on, KJ? So obviously there's a few questions that need to be answered about, Harry Kane coming to Manchester United. Personally, I think that it would make sense from a marketing perspective in terms of trying to improve Man United's brand overall, because, it's thinking captain, it's going to one of the biggest clubs in the world. But in terms of what Man United need, they sort of, don't really need him right now, do they? They just Sancho, he would work, he'd fit sort of in the system, but it depends. Do you really need a right winger so much, or is it just someone who creates?
KJ, you take this one. If you're there. KJ's muted. Maybe he's not there. Maybe he has to go away for a minute. My view is really simple. Doesn't need to be a right winger as such, but we need someone who can play well from the right-hand side. They don't need to hug the touchline at every single minute, but they have to occupy that right-hand side. We lack balance. Nearly over 50% of our attacks go down the left-hand side. Something like only 20% go down the right-hand side. It makes us highly predictable. I think it's something like 50% on the left, 30% through the middle, 20% on the right-hand side. And even what you look at centrally, that leans towards that left-hand side of the attack. So we need to create that balance. And even more importantly than that, as I've said already, Manchester United need creators. We have goal scorers predominantly in every single position from an attacking point of view. On the left, right, centrally, the 10 or the attacking midfielder, whatever hipster phrase you want to use, I'm not too bothered. We have goal scorers. We have people that think about scoring, in my opinion, before they think about creating. We need to get that balance right as a football club. Love him or loathe Ollie, that is what he requested in the summer. Grealish's, Jadon Sancho's to come into this team, and not just good creators. He wanted high-level, high-functioning creators in those positions, and he didn't get them. So for me, until Man United get the balance right, both in terms of square pegs in round holes and the balance between the left and the right-hand side, and almost making them as equal and as strong as one another. If you look at Chelsea right now, you can have Pulisic on one side and Hudson-Odoi on another. As an example, there's balance there. City, they can have Mahrez and Raheem Sterling. Liverpool for years, Mane and Salah. Now they're more goal scorers than they are creators, but their fullbacks are two of the most creative fullbacks that we've ever seen in football. So you have that balance. Man United lack it, in my opinion. Bro, thank you very much for coming on and having your say. Really appreciate that. We're going to have eye test on in a few moments with us, ladies and gentlemen. Do me a favor and smash the like button. Share this stream now on your social media platforms. Terry, do you still believe 80% for Sancho? I still think Man United are going to sign Sancho. I really do. A lot of people don't want to believe it.
I do not. I will happily say
interesting about the noise this year. I don't know how KJ feels about this, but the noise this season is it's more the Germans doing the talking about letting him go. It's all the German correspondents talking about the price drop, the player leaving, etc. Do you get what I mean, KJ?
Yeah, no, I get what I mean in terms of last year. It was it was a war between the press, and this year the British press ain't really speaking about it. They've really just put it on the back burner, and they talk about things. When it's the Germans now, I think Dortmund have conceded defeat of we're not getting this money we want for him. Crap, you know what I mean? Now let's just pull it out there. Let's get the feelers out, and let's try and get some interest in him early so this deal can get done quickly. So I understand like that's happening, and I can see why United fans can feel like that this could happen again. For me personally, it's just the trust is gone, the belief in this transfer is gone, and I personally do not believe it is happening because I don't trust that wallet. I can't do it. I did it in the summer. I trusted him, and look what happened. So yeah, man, I just can't do that. But if he does come, obviously I'll be ecstatic. And if anyone does believe it's happening, I'm not gonna shout them down and say, "How dare you think that?" I'll probably tell them just let it go. That's all I'm gonna tell them to say.
Yeah, mate, I hear that. For me, it's one of those things where it does feel a little bit sort of. I feel a bit about it like this transfer. I wanted Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao to fight for so many years. By the time it happened, I almost felt underwhelmed by it. I'm getting that way with Joshua Tyson Fury.
Yeah.
And I get that the pandemic in the last year has really slowed those things down. But it's like, just get on with it already. Otherwise, it's going to bore me. But I suppose you've got to look at it from this point of view, and this is where we don't always like to do it as a club. But this is where Man United is still bad because we leak too much nonsense to the press around we're comfortable on situations. We should have just kept everything quiet because the club looked at it like, well, they want 120 million. We think we can pick the geezer up for about 80 million in the next year. Remember when we did all the shows last year, a lot of the German press was saying, no, if you don't, whatever his value is this year, it's going to go up next year because the world's going to go back to normal. Man United have actually won that battle, and they could end up getting him for less than they actually bid. They put £100 million in on the final day of the transfer window. They're going to end up getting him for £20 million less. So from a business point of view, it makes sense. But I still would have preferred, like, my point of view is I would have preferred that extra 20 million. I think we could have done with Sancho in the team this year because I think we'd be in an even better position than we are.
Yeah, or even at least get an experienced right winger on loan. That could have actually helped the team in that position.
Yeah,
it's just with United. It's just with the planning, execution, the football know-how to get work around certain situations. Bayern couldn't get Sane the year they wanted him, bought Perisic on loan, and that helped them win a treble because that Perisic was very good for them in the Champions League and then in the league. It's just simple stuff like that where we can't even trust our board to have a plan B, C, and D. It's always plan A, mess up plan A, and then just panic and then go for plan Z, which makes no sense.
Yeah, and because the experience has been so bad in the past, you don't trust it. Like the Cavani deal looks pretty good now. To be frank, I'm really happy he's here, even for a short period of time. But when it first happened, I just had Falcao vibes.
Yeah, Falcao, Di Maria vibes.
Schweinsteiger vibes. And you can't help it because, as I said, I'm Alfie Moon and Kat Slate has cheated on me too many times and I just don't really trust her. So if she has a night where she's out with her sisters and she doesn't come home, my first thought is, whose bed's she in? Max? She with Phil? She with Ian Bill? Who's she with? Do you know what I mean? She's with someone because that's what always happens. But Blue here with a super chat says, we should all be blessed with the fact that we are living in the new generation of greatness. And we should, when it comes to Kylian Mbappe and Haaland, enjoying them both. My view is this. I've got my own personal preference. I know who I think's the better footballer. But it doesn't mean I think the other person's bad. We know that's the way this is going to be twisted. There's no doubt. Next on the show, he's back with us by popular demand. He's got something to say about Mbappe and something to say about Haaland. It's a man like eye test. He's here with us now. Eye test, welcome back to the Football Terrace. What are you saying?
Yes, so I wanted to comment on the Mbappe Haaland thing. I saw the super chat. We should be blessed. But for me, I'm sad. I'm sad. I'm hearing a lot of people are saying this is the end of Messi and Ronaldo, and this is now the beginning. Mbappe versus Haaland. I think this shows the decline in the level of footballers today. Mbappe and Haaland are good. I like Mbappe and Haaland, but for them to be the two best and for them to, now be next in line to carry the torch next. It shows the decline in football. They're good. They know. Listen. They're good, but they're no Messi.
And that's your issue, I test. That's your issue. That's your issue.
They're no Messi. They're no Ronaldo. They're no Zidane. They're no Ronaldinho. They're no R9. They're no Rivaldo. They're not that. So for me,
I test. Just very quickly. When those players came through, do you know that the previous generation were like, yeah, but they're not Michel Platini's. As an example, they're not George Bests, they're not Pelés, they're not Maradonas. every generation does what you're now doing. It's my era. Maybe it depends how you look at it. A lot of people look at it from their sort of early teens through to their young adolescence as like that's their peak era growing up. For me, the Paul Scholes, like if I look at the Premier League, Paul Scholes, Patrick Vieira, Thierry Henry, Ruud van Nistelrooy, Cristiano Ronaldo, Wayne Rooney. These were like the football players I grew up watching and idolizing. When I was in the playground and I took my shot on goal, I was shouting their names out. Does that make sense? Like they were the players that I wanted to be. Yours were Messi's and Ronaldo's and everybody else. And you're now, what you're struggling with is that the torch is being passed on. Messi and Ronaldo, by the way, are still going to be around for a number of years. They're still top class players, but it's being moved on. It's moving on to other individuals, and you're struggling with that because nostalgia is taking over.
Yeah. Also, Itest, I want to say this as well. What you're doing is it's subconscious, and it's not your fault because these two men have destroyed football in that way. You said they're not Messi and they're not Ronaldo. Mm-hmm. That's because those two are ridiculously good at football and should not be that good. Bro, you're using the highest form of football and the ridiculous barometer to judge how these two young men should be battling it out and what it means to take over the crown. Okay, no one's saying that they will get onto the same level, but what we're saying is that the torch is coming to it. The torch is being passed on because those two men are old. And also, their teams they're playing in are struggling clubs as well. So right now, we have to look at the Haalands, we have to look at the Mbappes to get the same kind of rivalry, the same kind of potential to come out because these two guys are suffering and experiencing something very natural called decline.
Okay, forget Messi and Ronaldo. For me, they're not even Neymars. They're not even Hazards. They're not even that level. They're not as good as a Hazard, Neymar, Gareth Bale. Is Mbappe better than Gareth Bale?
In what way are they not better?
So let me explain. You see, for me, the reason why players like Neymar, Gareth Bale, Hazard didn't get as much respect in this generation is because they lived in the same era as Messi and Ronaldo. Messi and Ronaldo are different level. Like they're different. But for me, I believe if Neymar was coming through with Mbappe and Haaland, he'd be looked at levels above Mbappe and Haaland because he's way better than them. He'd get way more respect if he was coming through with them because he's way better than them. But because he was coming through
way better than them. Okay, Itest. Way better at them at what?
At football. He's just a way better player for me. Hazard, way better player.
What in football? Because you're talking to generic here. You know, and what role of them doing? I'll give you an example, right? Would you agree that Eden Hazard is a better footballer than Manuel Neuer?
I don't know because Manuel Neuer is one of the best ever goalkeepers.
Okay,
you could argue, man.
So again, but so you just okay. So I was going to say that. Well, I would say technically as a footballer, Hazard's better than him, but you wouldn't put Hazard in goal. Hazard might be better at 10 different things to Haaland, but you would always, if you needed a striker right now, would you pick Haaland or Hazard?
Haaland.
Then I don't get what you're
arguing about. Haaland. I don't even think Haaland's as good as Luis Suarez, Lewandowski.
Oh, shut up. Shut up, Itest.
In the first 10,000 minutes, of Haaland's career, he has scored 112 goals. In his first 19 Champions League appearances, he scored 21 goals. None. And I don't care about this. Is where I start to lose interest in ability conversations. I think I saw a tweet from you actually yesterday. When I think of Falcao, Suarez, Aguero, Lewandowski, Harry Kane, all these players, none of them at 20 years of age had done what Haaland has. Now, if Haaland doesn't push on from here and he suddenly fades away by the time he's 22 and he's scraping 10 goals a season, playing in an average league, then we won't put him anywhere near those players. But at this point in his career, the excitement around Haaland is, the reason it's there is because for a 20-year-old, he's doing things that I personally, in my lifetime, don't remember other 18, 19, 20-year-olds doing. If you can find me another 20-year-old who in their first 19 Champions League games scored 21 goals, then we can talk. Can you find that? Do you know anyone who's done that? I don't. I think he's the only person to ever have done it before. So
there's so many good players that have done sick in their early teens and early 20s, but then have their career overall's been horrible. So it don't mean anything. Like
no, but no, but
we're not sitting here and saying right now Mbappe and Haaland are better than all those people you've listed or have had better careers. What I'm saying is where they are at 21, 20 and 22 respectively, they're on the trajectory to be on levels with those players, if not surpass them. And we should all just be really excited. And the debate today is, which of the two do you think is going to be the best? No one sat here and said, Haaland's levels above Aguero, you know. Well, who said that? Why is that even in your head? Plus, you're very weird in your tweet. You've got one tweet here that says, Haaland is good, but he's being overblown because there's no other strikers coming through right now. Let's be real. If he was coming through with Suarez, Aguero, Doski and Falcao, he would be looked at as average. But because there's no competition right now, they say generational. Well, again, if you can show me that those 4 players in their first 19 Champions League games did what he's done, then we're talking, right? Equally, you put another tweet out on the same evening saying Haaland is a goal-scoring machine. I'd take him any day. So what is he? Average? I don't get it.
Listen, I think he's a very good player. I've never said he's a bad player. I never said Mbappe is a bad player. I take them any day at Man United. But I'm saying for them to be the 2 main men, to it shows the levels of football have declined. Because
how is it though?
Because if they were coming through with, forget Messi and Ronaldo, if they were coming through with Neymars, with Hazards, with Bale,
but I test
then as good as these players.
But I test they are not. This is the thing, and they are not. There's nothing that can change. You can't go in a time machine and pluck these 2 men and to see if what happened if they played coming up with these men. They are not. They are here and they're doing their thing. You need to accept that. And also, we do not know how good they will become. We're just guessing. We're just predicting. So for you to even say it's upsetting to see that these 2 guys are the ones that could take over football, in 5 years' time, they could be absolutely amazing, outstrip Hazard, outstrip Falcao, outstrip all these men that you're listing, and you just look like an idiot just because you're in your feelings about Alexander Isak not being the guy, fam. Like, you're just literally eye test.
Well, mate, it's
being dumb.
Crazy. You're
being dumb. That's what you're doing.
I don't understand where you get your logic from either. Like the players you've mentioned are all absolute superstars. But the reason why Mbappe and Haaland are getting more attention than any of those guys you mentioned in your tweet, Suarez, Aguero got a bit, Falcao, is these boys have been doing it from the age of 17, 18, right? And performing at a colossal level in the biggest competitions. There's other guys you've spoken about. I know the world was different when they were coming through. So the internet wasn't as potent as it is now. The names of players wasn't. Even if you played Football Manager and you found one of these players, you weren't on the internet sharing it globally. Everything was a little bit more kind of peninsular and smaller. So it took a little bit longer for the names of. I remember the first time I saw Lionel Messi's name was playing a computer game, and he was like one of the wonder kids in like 2005 in a Football Manager game. And then I remember seeing him in the same summer, the World Cup was on, and he was being spoken about. And I said, "Oh, Daddy, I played that. He was really good in this computer game. It made me interested in him in real life." And then you start studying him and watching and listening, and you find out more about him. It's different now. I get that, because you can hype a player up more because of the internet, as an example. But Mbappe and Haaland have all the ability and outputs of young players to go on. They could go on right now to be 2 of the greatest football players to ever play the game, across all eras. They could, but it's all could right now. When they're 30, if they continue in this vein and keep getting better, then you have the conversation around who's better. No one's stating it. Like I said the other day, I think Mbappe, for his age, is better than Thierry Henry was at this point. And I think and I believe he's going to go on to have a more successful career in terms of goals scored, titles won, and influence on the game. I think he's going to become one of the very... Henry was one of the very best. I think Mbappe is going to go beyond that level in the same way Messi's and Ronaldo's are just that next echelon up. That isn't no disrespect to Thierry Henry. Thierry Henry is always going to be a great, but there's always going to be someone else that comes along at some stage that's better. And at some point, by the way, and it might be in 20 years, it could be in 100 years, there'll be someone that comes along that people say, this guy's better than Messi, you know. At some point, it will happen. You know, if you go back 15 years ago and said, oh, there'll be a new Formula One driver in a few years, it's going to be better than Michael Schumacher, people would have laughed at you. But we now have Lewis Hamilton. There was once upon a time you couldn't have convinced anybody that there was going to be a better grass court tennis player than Pete Sampras, and then Roger Federer came along. Do you get what I'm saying? When this always happens, there's always going to be a passing of the torch, or someone who levels it, or someone that betters it. And it's the way sport has always been. And you've got to get out your feelings and just enjoy it, mate. Because it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Enjoy it.
You see, for me, I'm just sad the Messi Ronaldo era is over, man. I grew up on them. And now I'm just annoyed when people say Mbappe and Haaland are the next big thing. Like, it's my opinion. I don't think they're as good as Messi, Ronaldo's, Neymar's, Bale's, Hazard's, Suarez.
You look at all the man you're listing. You listen to all the man for your childhood.
It's nice. It's
get out of there. Listen, bro. It is nice. Nostalgia is beautiful, but also nostalgia blinds, fam. Get out of there. You know what I mean? Get out. You know what I'm saying? Like, accept it. Listen, and I'm a big person who will argue that when people say Van Dijk is better than Rio, I would argue, say, no, it's foolishness. But in this situation, when we're just talking about two players, about where they could go and being happy for them, and you being sad, get out of that nostalgia, fam, and just look at the two guys that we've got now. Because other than that, imagine this eye test, yeah. If we didn't have Mbappe and Haaland and like some of the other players that you coming through, who have we got? You'll be even more sad because there'll be nothing left.
Is better than both for me. But
cool. But imagine if we didn't have a João Felix, you will be upset because the levels are lower. Just accept what's happening, bro.
And you know, say João Felix is better, and it's like in what regard? See, the conversation is, some people will say, most football players say scoring goals is the hardest part of the game. That's why, generally speaking, the best goal scorers get regarded as the best players in the game. So when you speak to most pros, most experts, goal scoring is the hardest thing to do. Finding good goal scorers is hard. Finding great goal scorers is even harder. Finding great goal scorers that also score great goals over a long period of time is rarer than rocking horse poo-poo. So they always get highlighted as being further up the field. Even at like grassroots level, you find it's easier to find people that are better, that can play in defense. It's harder to find people that can play in midfield. It's even harder to find someone that can score the goals. That's why they're the most expensive. It's why they're the most decorated. It's why they're the most coveted, and it's why they're the most celebrated. So João Felix and the, you know, even like Zidane's an example of someone who like breaks the mold. Every now and then you get these creative players who aren't the best goal scorers that stand out to everybody, but they're magicians. They're rarities. But as a general rule, goal scorers will always be spoken about a lot more. And it's why Messi and Ronaldo for me have surpassed Zidane as overall football players, because they had an abundance of technical ability about themselves, but they just had the goals and the assists on top. And it's an extra string to your bow in many ways. And I think for me, I get you like the silky players, you like the skills, you like the drag backs and the step overs and the great dribbling. And I think all of that's amazing in football. But give me somebody that's, if you've got a player that's 10 out of 10 at all those things, and I've got a player here, it's 8 out of 10 at those things, but my 8 out of 10 player has double the outputs of your guy, in my opinion, my dude's better. I don't care about the ability elements in certain areas. It's about match winning. And the irony is, when it comes to Zidane's and players of that ilk, everybody always talks about, they didn't even have great stats. Actually, look at them. For their roles, they did. Like, you can't find a great player that didn't have good statistical outputs. The older generation, it's harder because stats weren't, like assist stats weren't even in some countries, like assist stats didn't start existing until the early teenies, right? To the last 10 years or so. So it's hard to go back and work out how many, like you got Michel Platini as a goal scorer, was phenomenal. But you can't work out how many assists.
Yeah, this is why you've got Pele trying to say that he scored 5 goals in Power League. So Ronaldo needs to score more goals than that.
Yeah, you know like it's hard to kind of, so I get cross-era comparisons are very, very difficult. And I've said it before about the Premier League. Opta have got to go back. They've got to invest in going back in time and rewatching all the Premier League games, because I think people like Ryan Giggs, Robert Pires, Thierry Henry, Gerrard, and many, many players before it who played before 2004, before they made it easier to get assists, I think they've got 100. I think there's hundreds and hundreds of more assists that need to go to the older generation because we've changed how they're calculated now. And it's really disrespectful to turn around and say, KDB got 25 assists this season. Yeah, but like 8 of them were just 5-yard passes and a guy scored a screamer. Giggs weren't getting those assists 20 years ago. They didn't exist. So cross-era comparisons, I understand, are very, 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 very difficult as an example.
Before Titus goes, I got a question for him. Tonight, Man United Sociedad, you would, I reckon, this is a question, but it sounds like a statement. I reckon you would rather United lose by a Isaac hat-trick than United win with a Rashford hat-trick. I personally believe, is that true? Because I believe that you would.
That's not true. That's not true. I supported Man United from young. I would never support any other team ahead of United. That's not true.
Are you sure? Because the way you talk about Isaac and defend him over Rashford, it would say otherwise.
Well, he has got more goals than Rashford this season in the league. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I love how you say in the league and not all comps, but that's okay.
I haven't checked all comps. Maybe I'll check it later.
But will you celebrate? I'm guessing you will celebrate when he scores, isn't it? If he scores tonight, Isaac scores tonight, you're celebrating.
I won't celebrate.
You sure?
I'm a Man United fan. I'm a loyal guy.
Wait. How are you a loyal guy when you slate the manager, slate players, go and apologize and say I won't do it, and then go back to slating them again? How's that loyal? How's that loyalty?
Because I'm loyal to the club. I don't support the players. I don't support the manager. I support the club.
What?
And I want the best for the club. But
you don't, because
I don't have loyalty for the players or the manager.
I test you don't, because you attack the players and the club rather than attack the club are the reason we're in this mess, and you leave them alone and you go after the players. I just want to speak about this real quickly. So Zidane here, right? So of course the majority of his career, so Zidane is a prime example for how Opta, if you're ever watching my content, Opta, please invest in doing this and rewatch every single game Zidane ever played in. So Zidane retired in 2006. So he only had 2. You can actually see this come to fruition, right? The last 2 seasons of Zidane's career, in the 03-04, the 05 season and the 06 season, were the years where he actually got more assists in those league seasons than any other year before it, right? And that was the end of his thing. And that's because that's when the assists become easier to get, right? So I do believe he'd have a lot more. Even with so he played the majority of his career before the changing of the assist assessment and where stats were calculated properly, right? He still has over 300 goal contributions in 600 games. So it's a 50% ratio. That's before majority of his career, before they changed the assist stat. I almost guarantee you this guy has got about 300 assists. If they were to redo it now and go back and watch every single game he played from, by the way, from 1988, right? They weren't counting stats in 1988, right? If you go back all the way then to when he made his debut in League R and you go through everything he did as a player and you rewatched it, I guarantee you he's got a lot more than 119 assists that officially on paper he says he's got. And that's my point to a lot of people when it comes to the statistics. Zinedine Zidane's outputs are amazing, and if you to recalculate under the modern day standards of statistics, they'd be even better. You won't find a great player from an attacking point of view who's considered great that wasn't creating and or scoring lots of goals. The reason they were great is because what they did at end product. If Zidane was all the tricks and the tricks and the skills and the occasional screamer from distance, but he was only creating as many goals a game as Gini Wijnaldum, nobody would call him the greatest ever. The reason it's just that there wasn't the stats back then being accumulated for you to actually remember. So yeah, just every single top player I look at, we ain't got good stats. You find he's got brilliant stats. It all makes me laugh. It just makes me laugh how people always say they don't have good stats. And you look at it. Someone did it with Maradona. Someone told me that Maradona didn't have good stats, right? And I'm sort of like, I sort of sat back and I was like, really? Okay, I never really thought about it, right? And then I went and had a little look, right? Where is it? Let me find this here, right? Because I think it's important to look at this. And again, he played all of his football before the changing of the rulings around how the stats worked, right? But in his career, like he played 330 games, and scored 153 goals. And he was an attacking midfielder stroke support striker. He was never, that's not a number 9, right? That's 50% of the games he played in as basically a support striker or a number 10-esque role, right? He scored 153 goals, right? It says here that he got 30 assists as well, but they weren't even counting assists in the 80s when he was doing it. So you kind of know with Diego Maradona, he's probably on the modern day standards got 150 to 200, between 150 and 250 assists on top of those goals, right? Which would give him ballpark 350 to 400 goal contributions in just over 300 games. All great players have great stats. It's just that they weren't counted. They just weren't accumulated back then. It's amazing. It's really amazing how people don't know this.
Can I say something quick?
Yeah.
I have 2% charge, so I'm gonna go. But I want to answer the super chat. I think there is a power shift, yeah. I think no one cares about Real Madrid and Barcelona anymore. I think you see how is the end of an era for Messi and Ronaldo. I think it's also an end of an era for Real Madrid and Barcelona. You could see them declining, and you could see the Premier League becoming where most of the big players want to come to prove they're great. So that's my answer to the super chat.
That is the smartest thing you've said all day.
There we go. ITS, thank you very much for coming on, mate, and having your say. Really appreciate that. But
hey, Terry,
I'm about these stats, bro. It's
like yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I switched off because you're just waffling. Yeah, but I'm still baffled. Man actually said, I do not support the players. I do not support the manager. I only support the club. But yet you need to support you need the players and the managers to make sure that the club wins. So why would you not also support the players and manager? It just it makes no sense. I
kind of get his logic around he will put the club before any player or manager. That makes sense. But the problem is Man United are in this position because of the club, who owns the club and how they run the club. So it's like I've just changed my direction where I have sympathy for the players and the managers because we just run poorly. And I saw someone tweeted last night about Dortmund play great football even with an interim manager. I'm like, yeah, because the club is built that way. The club is built by a particular philosophy from academy level right through to the first team. They sign players for the club and not for managers. And the club, every decision the club makes from financial right through to personnel is done with the end result in mind being for Borussia Dortmund to be the best club possible, to be the best team possible for our size, our stature, for our finances. Does that make sense? Every decision is to be the best they can be. When your club doesn't think like that, behave like that, and operate like that, it's never going to happen. But on my waffling on stats, I'll be honest with you on this. This is just, again, I don't spend my days and weeks researching it because I can't be bothered. But it's like, as I say, if you find me a great attacking player and say he hasn't got stats, I guarantee you're wrong. And like I said before, Opta need to do this, bro. They've got to go back and do the research and watch greats. Just watch greats, not watch every single Serie A game from 1983, but watch every game that Maradona played in and recalculate on modern day standards. Because what I would love to see is how on the modern day statistical standards, how well the Maradonas and the Zidanes, the Ronaldinhos, the Ryan Giggs, how they actually, do you mean how they compare? Does that make sense? Because I get worried. The one thing about stats that worries me is that you could end up with an attacking midfielder getting, I don't know, finishing his career on 250 assists, and they're like, oh, he was a better passer and a better creator than a Maradona, than a Zidane, than a David Beckham. And it's like, well, you're not computing it in the same way. And I just think they should, with the amount of money that Opta make, they should invest in it. That's all I'm saying. Let's do some more calls here, people. We want to hear from you.
I think you should invest in it with all the money you make from it.
If I had enough money and time to do it, but it's the footage, bro. I need the footage. Honestly, I make this pledge. If the Premier League give me the footage to sit there and review, and then we put it out, I'd do the work on it, because I think it would be an amazing body of work for football. It might take a year to watch it all, accumulate it, publish it, and then present it. But I think it's something that really interests me, because it's so it's very hard to compare eras, because diets, quality of football pitches, football boots, the way the balls were, everything else. But equally, if you weren't even counting assist stats, I mean, you can't even do assist stats for like the Bobby Charlton era, because not every single game was recorded. So unless you were there and you remember every kick, you won't even know what happened, right? But if it's televised, they need to do it. But anyway,
yeah, everyone in the chat, we discovered that Terry is secretly a nerd, and he needs to go chat to Lincoln and Ram and them man there, innit? Like,
not a nerd, bro. I hear you. I know you're only messing. It's not about being a nerd. I'm sick and tired of fans saying, "Why do you only care about stats?" It wasn't like Maradona or Zidane had good stats. It's like they did, but they did.
yeah, no, I get you.
That's all it comes down to, because they just chat shit. Let's get Aaron on the line. Aaron, what you saying, bro?
Hi, Terry. Hope you're doing well. Firstly, hey, KJ. I haven't spoken to you in months, so lovely to see you, by the way.
Yeah, you can only see my photo, but it's good to see you too, bro.
Yeah, no worries, man. I'm glad I've come on, actually, because I've calmed down after the dejection from last night after losing three on the bounce. First of all, if I could spend a day looking inside iTest's head to see what his thinking process is, I would love to do that, because I don't know what his thinking process is.
I'm pretty sure you'll find a chimp with two cymbals clanging together. Also, my bro, watch the
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Sorry, guys. Sorry. Aaron, we're getting really bad feedback from your end when either of us talk to you.
Oh.
Your device in the background is playing feedback. I don't know if you
Oh, I think that might have been laptop. Is that all right?
Yeah. Is that? No, still getting it. Try some earphones. We're reconnecting it, mate. We'll get you back on in a bit. Sorry about that, mate. It's we just can't talk to you because it's all muffled. Let's go next to. We're gonna get on Fixer. Fixer, welcome back to the Terrace, mate. What are you gonna say?
Hey Terry, how you guys doing?
What's up, man?
Oh, I'm so glad I'm back, man. It's been a second, innit?
Yeah, man. Oh, listen, bro. I love having a conversation with you because you can say something mad and actually explain it, unlike certain other people.
Okay, but let me tell you what I wanted to talk about, yeah. So a few days ago, you guys were talking about the board and everything, and how, you know, that's like basically the reason why we're in a mess now. And I just wanted to say, yeah, I agree with you guys, yeah, that the board are like basically one of the reasons we're in this situation. But we cannot deny that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has not really done enough to take us like to the next level. I mean, there's a pattern. I don't know if you guys have noticed yet. When Solskjaer first came in, he goes on a run, right? We're like, I don't know where we was, but he almost got us to the top 4. And at the moment of truth, he always makes a decision that sets him back. Solskjaer is his own worst enemy. Like, for example, we're like in the Europa Cup semifinals, right? And he plays Romero every single game leading up to the semifinal. And at the moment of truth, he decides to change something. He brings in De Gea instead.
But that's semi-fine. That I get what you mean. I get you mean because I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. I think just that example is a poor one because it wasn't De Gea that let us down that day. It was mainly the attackers and the defenders.
Yeah. I understand that, but that's just. I understand it wasn't a direct mistake from De Gea, but there's a psychological aspect to it. You know, like for example, it's like when you're in a nightclub, right, and then you meet a girl and you spend the whole time buying her drinks, doing everything, blah 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 blah, chatting her up, and at the last moment, you see another girl, and your mind is, you know, you're caught in two minds, and then you go and chat to the other girl, and the girl that you spoke to previously sees that, and then she says no. Do you understand what I'm saying? So you've done everything, you've done all the hard work, you've done everything, you've gone through the whole process, and then at the last second, you don't stick to your guts, you don't follow your gut. And it's not the first time he's done it. He's done it many, many times. Another example is recently we're on a run, yeah. We won all these games, we've done everything right. Sheffield United come around, and what does this guy do? He doesn't bring on the subs early. He doesn't trust his bench. He makes a substitution at the last minute, even though he's always stuck to not doing any substitution. And then at the last freaking second, he decides to change something. Bring in Tuanzebe. I'm not blaming Tuanzebe for the goal or nothing.
Yeah.
But that was a wrong move. That was a wrong move.
It was to Andy.
I get what you mean. Like, I don't think anyone here who blames the board or wants the Glazers gone or wants Woodward out of power will sit here and say Ollie is the right man to win us Premier League. So I don't think anyone is saying that.
But the thing is, he could be. He's come the closest out of all our managers to achieving the impossible. You know, he could be, but he lets himself down at the most vital time.
That's the point, and that's because when it's second guessing yourself. It's like a player making the wrong decisions on the field of play and not being able to have it coached out of them. I think Ollie is a good at the elite level here. I think he's a good coach. I think he's a good manager. Man United are in a position where, because we're not a well-run club, we need the absolute best to even keep our heads above water over a long period of time. The problem you have is you need to find a great coach who can keep the players on board. And it's basically the one thing Ollie does brilliantly is he spins all the plates at Manchester United, because he knows the club isn't set up and isn't being run in a way to win titles. He has to keep all the players happy with all the fallouts that go on there. He has to try and keep us winning on the field of play. When he probably knows in his heart of hearts, I bet if he's sitting at home and he's honest with himself, he knows he ain't at the level of anywhere near a Fergie. He knows he's nowhere near the level of a Pep or a Klopp or anybody like this. But it's a case of a balancing act that Manchester United need. And the reason why we've been probably at our best in the league since Fergie retired, and there's no real turmoil coming out of the club, is because of Ollie's leadership. And that's because he loves the football club. The problem that you've got is if we go for a Poch who doesn't love the football club but wants to come here and win, and then 18 months in stops getting what he wants from the board, there's much more of a chance of toys being thrown out the pram, because you feel like you're being held back on a professional level. You don't have the same affinity and connection to the club, so you behave in a very different way. But
I think he loves the club a bit too much. I think that's the problem. I think that's the problem. Like for example, the way he treats some players and treats other players, like he just does things so obvious, like Rashford, Martial. He keeps playing all these guys over and over again when he can look outside the box for a second. He can think differently. My biggest problem with that guy is that he doesn't try to mix things up. I understand the board and everything.
Wait. But Fixer, you just was complaining that at the last second he mixes things up and changes what he does. So at the last minute, but he shouldn't always wait to the last minute.
Yeah.
Sometimes he can. Sometimes it doesn't matter how good a player is. Sometimes you have to make them hungry. You have to starve them. Look at what Pep is doing here. Look at what Pep did to John Stones.
Victor, but that's not about loving the club too much. That's about not being a good enough coach, which is what I was talking about. He's done a lot of good things. He's keeping our heads above water. He's managing the players well in terms of keeping them all working hard and on point in the dressing room. He's putting out, I feel like Ollie is putting out fires all the time. And he's doing that as a good or an average coach at the elite end of the spectrum. My view is simply this: we can go and get a Nagelsmann tomorrow. We can spend it.
I don't even want Nagelsmann. I don't even like him.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't actually matter what manager I'm talking about. We can go and get a better manager that will make us play better football, that will make better decisions. But because of how the club is run, we were still going to end back up at this point in some way, shape, or form. The nuances and the stories and the journey to that stage will be different. But if you're a badly run club, if you're a badly run business, a badly run school, a badly run family, you're always going to end up with problems. It's as simple and it's as straightforward as that. If you run your life badly, you end up in problems. You've all got a friend.
Absolutely.
You've always got issues. But you kind of know as you get older and get to know your friend more and more. Bruv, it's you.
Yeah, listen, when things are burning down around you every single time, it comes to a point where the common denominator is you, my brother. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just where life is. And as United fans, we need to realize the common denominator is the way the club is run. It just simply is. You can't go 9 years without winning the title, complaining about managers, complaining about players, and then not look at the club and be like, actually, what are they doing?
If we were
another thing I wanted to say, KJ, is think about it this way, yeah. Think about it this way. All those managers that have come in, Luis Van Gaal, Mourinho, they know what they were getting into before. Man United has never been a club that splashes that much money every season. We get the occasional world-class player to take us to the next level, like Berbatov. We brought him for a specific reason to win the league, and I think we did. We brought in Van Persie to win the league. So we bring in like 1 or 2 world-class players, and then we bring in some other like regular players to help. We've never been the club that had 11 world-class players on the pitch at the same time. Even when Fergie was there, we had Cleverley, we had Anderson, you know.
But there's 2 things in that. We had the best manager ever in football. That's first and foremost, managing as a collective. Plus, we were well run. We had a philosophy, we had a system, we had a style, we had an ethos. There was behavior, you know, the way things are, you know. Man United didn't even have a Twitter account until Fergie left, because he was like, no, things in house, don't want to, blah, 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 blah. So you can't compare the 2 eras. You're actually right. We've changed our model depending on the manager. I always felt under Woodward, we went for this sort of Galactica approach. Let's sign some big stars. Let's try and make it work. We were signing players that didn't even want to come here. And just because we're Man United doesn't mean people want to be here. Like even in Fergie's peak era, Gabriel Batistuta, to name one. I don't want to go to United. You know, we went after Alan Shearer. Nah, I'm going to choose someone else. You don't get Paul Gascoigne. You don't get all of the players that you go after. We never did under Fergie, and we never ever will get everybody that we want, because everyone's got a preference. But it's like we were well run as a football club. And to your point about Ollie, and I remember Aaron, and he was absolutely right. And I think he tweeted this, or he said it on the show, one of the 2 things, about Bayern Munich. It was not working with said manager. They sack him, bring in Flick, and they go on and win a treble. It's like, yes. It's like, that's how a club should operate. Yeah, it should. And Ollie, by now, in my opinion, if we were a well-run club that was 10 years into its process, they already would have removed him. It wouldn't matter about who we were buying, because you buy for the club's ethos and the club's philosophy. All you're looking for is the right coach to get the very best out of that first team squad to make you winners. So if Ollie kept on making mistakes and falling at the final hurdle, like managers of Bayern have done and been sacked, like managers at Dortmund have done and been sacked, you can just move them out and a new person in very quickly. We haven't done that. 4 times running, we've allowed managers to start building Man United in their own image, their own signings, their own scouting networks, their own training methods. There was huge reports of the way our academy was training to play during the Jose era. It was obviously different to how the first team were playing. So imagine
it was still that remnants of LVG academy.
Exactly. So it's like you're an academy player for 3 years learning to play the LVG way after doing 2 years prior doing it the Fergie way. And then Jose comes in, you get an opportunity in the first team, but it's a completely different style of football again. Then the club sends you out on loan to another football club with a completely different ethos and philosophy, and you'll come back and you're expected to now fit into an Ollie system. The whole thing is backwards. And everything people say about the trust the process comment is this for me. I have no issue with what Ollie's trying to build. The only time I've got an issue is as and when he leaves for whatever reason, if we knock it down and start again with a new manager, it's waste of time and waste of energy. You need to find a manager that can pick up from where Ollie's gone and can take what we've built to that next level. We shouldn't be looking at a major overhaul of players. It should be a couple, because you should always be looking to refresh your squad, but it should be a continuation. If Pep Guardiola wins the quadruple this year and then leaves because he thinks I can't do any better, the new manager isn't going to suddenly come into City and go, right, 7, 8, 9, 10 of these players have got to go. Here's a shopping list of 10 individuals. I'm going to change the style. I'm going to change the system. I'm going to change the captain. I'm going to change how we sit and operate in the canteen. They're not going to do it. Man City won't allow that. It'll be no. This is what Pep's done in terms of taking our journey forward. This is where we are as a club. When they interview for it, they say, "How are you going to elevate this forward?" And they won't allow more than a 10 to 15% change. There's always going to be slight change because you can't ever fit a like for like because there isn't another Pep. Yeah. But that's how a well-run club operates. And for me, that's why it's wasted energy focusing on Paul Pogba's dancing, Martial smiling, Rashford's decision-making, Maguire's big head, Ollie's tactics, Ollie's press conferences. Because until we'll run properly, all of that other stuff for me is just immaterial. It's immaterial and it's elementary, as Sherlock Holmes would say. Fixer, listen, great call, mate. Thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you guys.
One final I want to ask KJ about, is today going to be Diallo Day?
Yes. Here we go. That's what I want to talk about. No. It is not. You spoke earlier on the show about what people were saying about Ali and Diallo, and I feel like they've got they're on the right thread, but their intentions are misconstrued. I don't think Diallo's playing today, and not because Ollie doesn't want. He's gone away from the youth, or like he doesn't know what he's doing. I think it's because when it comes to the youth, he's very cautious. He's very meticulous in terms of giving them game time, what situations to put them in. I would love Ollie just to say, screw it, throw them in. It's Rashford, Greenwood, Diallo up front tonight because we've got a load of players out. But he won't do that because he likes to have a controlled environment where young players can come in and not feel pressure. You've seen it with Mason Greenwood. You've seen it with Brandon Williams. And you saw it with players like Tahith Chong. He wouldn't just throw these guys in for no reason. So literally, Diallo, it was a very, very, very unfortunate thing that happened to him during the FA Cup. Because I'll say this, I said it a minute, but I'll just say it again. Our first team players love denying young players their opportunity. You know what I mean? Like, Ollie will always wait until the 80th minute when we're 2-0 up to give their young players their debut. And our first team players are like, nah, screw that. Let us play terribly so that we have to wait until the 90th minute to score our winning goal. And these them can't come on in it. Like, that's what it's like in it. So, yeah, unfortunately, I don't think Diallo's coming on today. Or Shorter has gone as well. Shorter has gone with the squad as well. I don't think either of them are getting the minutes because Real Sociedad are a tough team. And I don't think Ollie's going to think, right, this is the game for them.
Yeah, do you know what though? This is what also happens, and it's not an Ollie problem. It's a club problem again. The pressure because of our run of form recently, which is partly because of how Ollie's team have performed, but we also know that we're an up and down, inconsistent team because of 8, 9, 10 plus years of bad management and everything else, right? So we've already gone through that, so we won't go over old ground. It then puts more pressure on the team to win tonight, and because you kind of know in the Fergie era, you start Diallo tonight in this game. Because, by the way, we did when we got relegated from the Champions League into the Europa League under Fergie, and I want to say in like 2011, 2012, and we got battered by
Athletic Bilbao fan. It was embarrassing, bro.
We played some young players, Pogba played and stuff like that, right? But it was embarrassing. Everyone was angry, but it was Fergie, so he got credit in the bank. Ollie ain't got that credit, bruv. And if the thing is tonight, we already know what's going to happen. If we don't win and win well, the knives are out. Like I've obviously follow a lot of Man United fans on socials. We have seen some tremendous football in the last 48 hours in the Champions League and Premier League, and all it's made them do is attack Ollie more. Right? They watch Mbappe score, they attack Ollie. They watch Dortmund play good football, they attack Ollie. Do you know what I mean? And it's like I feel a little bit sorry for Diallo. Not sorry for Ollie or Man United. I feel sorry for Diallo because the environment that we're creating as fans makes it harder for managers to give more opportunities to young players because it's win now, win good, no time for development, win now, win now, win now. We have a lot of our fans have become like Chelsea, where it's, in my heart of hearts, I don't really care about the development of this young player because young players are going to go through up and down moments in their careers, their fledgling years. It's, I want to win now at any cost, and I don't care about the future. It's all about win. And then every now and then you see a decision like, oh, we're going to go and sign Harry Kane. But what about the development of the youngsters? You can't have it both ways. You simply can't have it both ways. You either need to be patient for the development to come through, and then you give the club more leeway and more time to not win things, or you want to win now because it doesn't happen the way round you want it to, especially from a club that's fallen from grace. If you're where City are, and you're going to start blooding in one youngster. I mean, look how long it took Phil Foden to become a regular in the Man City team.
Yeah, like 3 years.
There was no pressure on Pep from his own fans to do it. So there is an element of United fans where I feel like saying, "What do you want?" You know, I feel like Ryan Gosling in The Notebook. It's like, forget what I want, forget what he wants, forget what they want, forget what your parents want. What do you want? And just say it out loud and stick to it. Stick to it and be honest. But people's wants are always so contradictory from the next. It's I want to develop I want Greenwood to play in his natural striker role. I want Diallo to get all his game time and all of his opportunities. I want this player in and that player in. I want Mengi in the back line now. That's it. Okay, cool. But young players are inconsistent. You know that, right? It's pretty much why the Haalands and the Mbappes get so much credit and praise, because they're rarities, because they're not showing inconsistencies like normal youngsters. So you do realize that youngsters are inconsistent by their very nature. Yes. So you do mean that means the performances by that definition are likely to be even more inconsistent. Yeah, I know. We've been inconsistent for 2 weeks. Fucking manager systems. Why is he playing the kids? You've got Matter on the bench. That's what they do. And it's like you don't know what you want, people. And
yeah, it's one of those ones where everyone's screaming Diallo. I'm screaming Diallo. I'm willing to give Diallo time as much as I'm giving Greenwood time and protecting him from all the BS that people try and make up about him. And they've already started with Diallo with the whole thing with his papers in Italy and his background. They've already tried to attack him already. So I'm here. I want that to happen. But many people calling for him will be the same people that call him crap and why do we spend money on him if things don't go well the next, like his first 10 games or something. And that's the sad part. I'm like, as you know, I'm a big advocate for young people. I'm a big advocate for young players. And seeing people tell me it's too early for them. I'm a big person of, you need to take the risk for them to thrive. But at the same time, I understand the caution because the risk is good, but is it worth it? Is it worth it? Giving these guys minutes, knowing that these man them, are just gonna get heat. Me personally, I think it is worth the risk, but I can see why people are a bit more cautious than many experienced players.
Listen to this headline here. It's just in the Telegraph today from a journalist called, I think, Luke Edwards, who says Mason Greenwood will be almost 24 when the contract he signed at Man United this week is due to expire. What sort of player will he be in 2025? That for me, that's fine. It then goes on to say, and perhaps more pertinently, what type of man will he have become?
Oh, what? You see what they're doing? Do you see what they're doing? Why?
And it's an absolute joke. And do you know what's interesting this season? Two very talented young players away on England duty made mistakes. One of them is in a relationship with a kid. The other one is in a relationship, but is young.
The time he wasn't. At that time, he wasn't
in a relationship at the time. Has no children. Is young, free, and single. They both messed up by breaking COVID restrictions, and they both deserved criticism for that element. Phil Foden has been subsequently left alone by the media, by the public, to go on and thrive and have an amazing season. Mason Greenwood has been absolutely hunted down ever since that point. And we know the reason why. It's the immutable object in the room, the elephant in the room. It's the fact that man's got melanin in his skin as opposed to being a white guy. We know that black players always get unfavorable headlines. If two young 19-year-old starlets bought their mum and dad a house this week, we know if it was a black player that did it, it would be a young man who's only had 4 Premier League appearances, flashes the cash and buys his parents a home. Is this right for blah, 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 blah? If it was a young white English player, it would very much be young so-and-so starlet, gives back to his hardworking family after years of sacrifice to get him to the very top of his game. We know that the headlines would quite literally be along those lines. And me, that's another thing for Diallo. He got protected. All the stuff about faking parent stuff and whatnot. I read the reports. Looks like that stuff's sort of true. Do you know my first thought was? Firstly, he ain't making a conscious decision at 10, first and foremost. Equally, my first thought wasn't, it's terrible that people are faking who their parents are to get into Europe. My thought is, imagine being from a place where you have to lie to get out. Like that for me is the bigger focus here. It's what can football do to stop that from having to happen, but still enabling these young, talented, intelligent men and young boys at the time in parts of the world that are less privileged than we are to flourish still, so that they don't have to lie about who their parents are. That
Yeah, it's very mad. That the whole Diallo situation is crazy because what happened to him at an age where he had no conscious decision about what happened. You know what I mean? He can't, at 10 years old, make this decision to do what happened to him and get him to the place where he's at. And the fact that he got fined, the fact that they blamed him for it is why it's such a disgrace. Because name me, if I went to your child who's 10 years old and said, you see when you made them go outside and they got hit by a snowball, that was that 10-year-old's fault for going outside. No, it's the parents' fault for letting them go outside, you pricks.
When I read the story, my first thought was, do you know what? My mum's best friend, right, used to pick us up from school. We used to call her auntie, right? It's the same equivalence on a more official scale, isn't it? It's like Terry's really good at ice hockey, and some American school wants him to go over there, but he can't go without a parent. Oh, we'll just say I'm his auntie then, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's the same difference. Do you know what I mean? It's just someone's, you know, you probably find that his parents and these people, I don't know if I don't know the circumstance. It was like, yeah, okay, we'll just say that because he's talented. We need to get him out of wherever we are. To give him all these great opportunities. It's like, it's actually a sad story and you're punishing him for it. Do you get what I mean? It's a madness. It's an absolute madness, bruv. It really, really is. Listen, everyone who's tuned in today, thank you. We're back later on this afternoon. We're going to be doing some preview shows. I want to do something around the Merseyside derby this week. And Man City Arsenal. We're going to decide later what's it going to be. We're going to be doing some combined 11 elements. Until next time, everybody, take care of yourselves. Goodbye. God bless. Smash that like button. Subscribe to the Football Terrace. And we'll see you all again very, very soon.